Welcome to episode 118 of How About the Huskies. As always, I'm your host, Connor, joined by Matt and Andrew, and it feels like we have these negative episodes more often over the past few weeks. Another UConn loss, the second straight time they've lost at Campbell Pavilion. That hasn't happened since 2014 when they lost to Texas and Yale back to back. Losing to Yale right after a title wasn't a great time for the Huskies, but staying on track here. The Huskies dropped this one to number 12 St. John's, a very talented Red Storm roster led by head coach Rick Pitino. We'll talk about all of that during this episode. If you guys remember, if you were fans of the podcast, very early in the 2023 season, we had that loss at home to St. John's, and we had a bit of a rant podcast. There was a 52-minute long episode where we were just kind of trashing on the team. We're much past that. This isn't going to be that, but I feel like we're definitely going to have to get some stuff off our chest in this one because I don't know. Open the floor up to you guys. What do you guys have to say about this one? Just I'd say disappointing is the word I'd use.
I mean, the team thought the game was over when we were up 21-8. That's what I think. I think ever since that lead happened, nothing was the same, and they just kind of let off the gas a little bit. And by the time they got back on the gas, it was just too late. But more I want to talk about is the second half and just the stupid, careless turnovers and passes that were made. It looked like nobody had ever played organized basketball. I mean, I can pinpoint a couple of moments, but it's just I feel like everybody knows the stretch that I'm talking about, but it was a pretty terrible ending. It was a great night altogether. Great to see Ben Gordon and everybody back at Gamble, but just they really just didn't play well again, and it's becoming an issue that needs to be talked about. Liam couldn't buy a basket in the first half, but that was to be expected. I think unfortunately Caravan's confidence might be out the window for now. That sucks to say, but obviously he's still a great player. But his confidence in terms of shooting, he's not the same player that he was before in terms of shooting the basketball. He's not the same player that he was before the Villanova game, but there's a decent amount to talk about. But I had to open it up with the fact that the effort in the second half really was not there much. But I got to credit St. John's too before I end this. Their defense, their perimeter defense was some of the best that I've seen in all of college basketball this year.
I really think it's as simple as Rick Pitino is a great coach and RJ Lewis is a great player. After you mentioned that 21-8 start, I mean, that was them the whole time after that. I didn't really see a way that we were going to be able to curb that momentum once it lasted longer than, the first half moved into the second half. We were down six and it felt like 16. It was really rough. We just had a hard time getting buckets. Diarra had 3 points. Caravan, you mentioned, 3 points. And then wherever else it was coming from was very all over the place. Our leading scorer, McNeeley, shot 4 of 15. Super inefficient. Solo ball, didn't score in the second half. And I don't think Jalen Stewart did either. We were kind of rendered helpless going into the second half. Terrace had a great game. But other than that, yeah, it's you just need guys to step up and to be able to score in these games and in these moments. And I'm sure, as we continue to play tougher competition in the second half of the Big East schedule, we will kind of move into that and kind of grow.
Yeah, in that second half, the only two players to hit multiple field goals were McNeely and Terrace Reed. And we'll start with McNeely, I feel like, 'cause that's one big positive you could take from this game. He was back on the court. He did get trigger happy in that first half. He started missing his first five threes, I think, but they were all solid looks. He just really wanted to see one go down. And of course, the first one he hit was like at the end of the shot clock fading away because that's just how basketball works, I guess. But I mean, he had 18 points, 11 rebounds, his third double-double of the season. I feel like obviously we knew we were missing Liam McNeeley. It was evident when we lost three games without him in Big East play. But just the little stuff like you had 11, they're all defensive rebounds, but guys crashing the glass and giving us opportunities, not giving St. John's second chance opportunities too often with McNeely getting those rebounds. At the free throw line, he missed a couple early on, but he still hit 8 of 10. That's an area we struggled in. I feel like some of our main guys at the stripe. So to have that back, he played nearly 30 minutes, which I don't know if that was Hurley and the staff's intention going in, but the way the game progressed, you almost had to play him more than you probably wanted to because you need to try to, I guess, at that point, steal a win when you're losing. But yeah, starting with probably the biggest positive of the night, Liam McNeely looked very healthy. I feel like he didn't show any signs of fatigue or any injury with that ankle. So hopefully he's back 100% good to go because the schedule doesn't get much easier from here.
And Liam, he had 18 points, but that inefficient shooting, he kind of looked a little bit like someone who had just missed a month and was coming back in his first bit of action here, trying to get back up to game speed. I'm not too worried about the inefficient shooting or, I mean, even the three turnovers. I think, as time goes on, maybe even going into this next game on Tuesday, that he'll be able to figure it out and kind of get to that game speed that we kind of need him at.
Now, if I don't the feel I feel like the way to describe this game is it's not a bad loss, obviously. St. John's is very good. I think they're going to make a really far run in the tournament, especially if they play defense like this versus everybody. It's going to be very hard to beat them. But that's obviously a game that you really don't want to lose in front of a home crowd against the best team in the Big East, ranking wise, on Ben Gordon night. I feel like the place was into it until just the RJ Lewis play. That was a fantastic play call, but at the same time, how do you not double the best player on the team? I have so many questions about the game that I wish could be answered, but just all in all, it's not a bad loss, but it's really disappointing just to see that pretty much when RJ Lewis hit that shot that the game was over.
I definitely agree that this is not a bad loss. We got kind of lucky, I feel like, in the sense here that we lost to St. John's at home because we basically play them at home twice. So I'm not too worried about this home loss because I feel like we could just as easily go into MSG and take one from them there, opposed to a team like Nova or Creighton where you kind of gotta go into these rough environments. But like I said, I'm excited to go into MSG against these guys and hopefully take one back.
Yeah, I'll give my flowers to St. John's now. I was going to do it later, but since you guys both did, this is a team, like you guys both said, it's not a bad loss at all. I'd be shocked, like literally shocked if St. John's isn't a second weekend team in the NCAA tournament, at least a Sweet 16, because they're going to be a pretty high seed. I mean, they're 21 and 3. I don't see the defense and just the experience with this group. I don't think they're going to lose to a lower seeded mid-major. And then they're going to play a team that's a little better, but they're going to have, what, 36 hours to prep for that defense? It's not very easy. So I feel like St. John's has the makeup of a team that can make a deep run in March. I mean, I saw some similar, I guess, values to maybe some of our teams we've had because like Kadari Richmond's a bigger guard, like Tristan Newton, RJ Lewis gave me vibes of guys we've had maybe a little bit of Stephon Castle. It's a little weird of a comparison, just the mid-range game that they both have. I don't know. Obviously, St. John's is supposed to be a rival, but I feel like what Rick Pitino's doing with that program in just his second year, it's really, really impressive. They've won, what, 10 in a row? They're 12 and 1 in the Big East. They just had a week where they beat Marquette and UConn. It's just St. John's is back. It's not a bad loss for the Huskies, but I agree with what you said, Matt. I'm glad we get them at MSG because that was the true home game for us. That's not a true home game for St. John's. Store South, it's gonna be rocking. I believe the 23rd. We got around 2 weeks. It's gonna be awesome. But I feel like that's pretty much where the positives end for this game. I guess one last thing: Terrace Reed, 15 rebounds, 12 points, played 32 minutes, the most minutes he's played in a regulation game. He looked like a beast out there. I know Matt, you called it in the preview with your player to watch as the guy they wouldn't be able to stop, and they really couldn't. He hit 5 of his 7 shots, 2 of 4 from the line, 7 offensive rebounds. He was just cleaning up the glass, giving us second chance opportunities that in that second half, most of the time, we didn't take advantage of. So that's pretty much all we got for positives in this game. I guess Jalen Stewart's first half, 9 points. Solo Ball, first half, 13 points. But if you check the box score, Jalen Stewart finished with 9. Solo Ball finished with 13. So zeros in the second half from them. But I guess I'll just open the floor to some negatives you guys saw from this game because I feel like we could talk for a while, but I don't think it's really worth it because, like you guys said, not a bad loss. You can really just scratch it, I feel like.
I mean, I'm going to double down on my point from earlier. The effort just wasn't there. St. John's was hustling for every loose ball and every rebound, and our guys were kind of just standing there. You know, a main one that comes to mind is Jaden Ross doing too much and reaching over. I believe it was Zuby when Terrace clearly poked the ball out. I mean, you can't have that foul. Diarra knocking the ball out of bounds when he clearly could have gotten it. Guys just watching the ball fall in St. John's rebound. And just the heart wasn't there. And I don't know if you don't have heart for this game, are you going to have heart for any other game for the rest of the season? I mean, I feel like that's a little premature to say, but I feel like it's not not premature to say at the same time because this was the biggest game of our season easily, and there just wasn't any heart at the end of the game. So I feel like, Marquette comes to this building in a couple of weeks. We have St. John's and MSG. We go to Omaha on Tuesday. Three tough games. Are you going to have heart for those games? Are you going to have heart for the Big East tournament, which is one of the hardest conference tournaments to win? It's just this game made me question this team a lot more than I have all season.
A huge part of it for me, and I feel like for everybody else, should definitely be that our junior leader and projected first round draft pick just has not been good. He's been bad. I mean, usually I feel like we're kind of meet in the middle where we kind of understand like, oh, maybe he's just gonna, but he's been bad. He is just it's almost a liability on offense. Since January 11th in that game against Georgetown, he has scored in double figures 3 times in the past month. And I think you mentioned, Connor, before we started recording, he's down to 21% from three in this past month. It's just not at all where you need to be if you're looking to come back and win a third national championship. He really needs to step it up because this team relies on him, I feel like, more than we may think. And I don't think that we'll be able to see another full strength UConn team again until Alex Conman comes back and is his normal 14 point per game self. That's just, to me, that's just as simple as it gets.
Yeah, since Caravan had that redemption game against Georgetown, the one directly after his Villanova mess up, we'll call it, at the end of that game, he's shooting 13% from three in those 6 games. So that's a guy, obviously, I feel like he's not taking bad shots. It's just a slump, which happens to the best shooters. I mean, if it was a guy who we don't expect to make two or three threes a game and he's doing this bad, I feel like we wouldn't be as upset. But he's a guy who I guess the fan base has set standards for. He's a guy you expect to get at least in double figures, 12 plus points, 12 to 15 range. I feel like is an average night for Alex Caravan, or at least it should be. We should not be surprised to see him get into double figures, but he has had a very rough stretch. He only had 3 points in this one, only made one field goal, a nice offensive rebound that he laid in, so it was a productive bucket. But I mean, he was in foul trouble in the first half too. Sampson was in foul trouble all game. A couple of guys were in foul trouble, but I mean, I guess a positive you could take from his performance is that he didn't play 40 minutes. He played 27, which scrolling down his game log is the least amount of minutes he's played in the game all year. So maybe that's a positive for those of the crowd that says he can't handle playing 40 minutes. But I mean, he didn't play as many minutes and he had arguably one of his worst games of the year. So I feel like those two have to go hand in hand.
I just think it all comes down to this team still doesn't have an identity. Like they don't like I don't know. I don't know how to say this without sounding negative, but they don't really like play together. They kind of play a little bit by themselves and then a little bit together at points in time, but I just I don't know. I feel like this team just is not obviously it's not like last year's or the years before. Obviously it's still a good team, but they have no identity. The sets that we run aren't really the same as last year, and obviously that's due to difference of players. But it's just this team is not like last year's, and I feel like there's got to be an adjustment made in the coaching office. I feel like that's what it's going to end up coming down to. If you have to give Caravan less minutes and Stewart more minutes now that Liam's back, then that's the move you have to make. But either way, a move has to be made, or this team's not going to win many more games.
I definitely noticed a move yesterday, one that I feel like Andrew probably liked a little more than others, is that Liam came back and Jaden Ross went somewhere. I'm not sure where he went, but he only played 5 minutes. I think it's kind of happening now where that Jalen Stewart is really showing up and popping off on a regular basis. I think that these minutes are his. I think that's his role. I think that backup three role is officially his. I don't think that they're that high on Ross right now anymore. And I feel like in a game like this, I don't think he would have been that bad, funny enough, against these huge wings and guards. So I don't really know where I'm going, but small little tidbit there that Jaden Ross just kind of disappeared, and I wonder if it's just kind of stay like that.
And I don't want to jinx anything, but we are seeing consistency from Jalen Stewart positive consistency from Jalen Stewart for the first time all year. He's been consistent with some zeros early on, but he had 15 against DePaul, now back-to-back games with 9. He is, I feel like we didn't really know what we were going to expect, like roles wise. I mentioned it in our preview. With McNeeley back, some guys are going to lose shots because what did Liam take 15 shots? That's 15 less shots for guys that have been playing the past month to take. Solo was affected. Stewart, he wasn't really affected. He still took 6 shots after taking just 5 in that Marquette game. But I feel like Stewart is going to be almost like the X factor for this team because it gives you more leeway to sit Caravan. Like Caravan was in foul trouble, but he still sat early in this first half, which I don't think he's really done at all when Liam was out, at least not very often. It gives you more flexibility there. I agree with you, Matt, about Ross, that I probably would have expected to see him a little bit more in this game for the defensive aspect, knowing it could be a low scoring game. The way St. John's guards, they don't allow a lot of points. So you're going to have to try to limit their points to win the game. It was a fairly low scoring game, most of it till the end. But yeah, I feel like the next guy I want to talk about is Hassan Diarra. I want to hear what you guys have to say before I have to make my point because I've thought about my point for a while now, knowing what Hurley has said, knowing what I've seen with my own eyes. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about Diarra.
I mean, I said this before. You guys heard that the fans didn't. For every 5 or 6 great passes that he makes, he has 1 or 2 where we're just like, what in the world are you doing? And obviously, like he's been our backbone at the guard position this year. I'm not here to rag on him, say that he sucks because he doesn't. But I mean, some of these passes, it's just like I feel like we can joke about how bad they are, but at the same time, like it makes me just wonder, like what is he seeing on the floor? What is he seeing for him to make these passes? I mean, he made one that was pretty much right to the St. John's defender. He was trying to go up and over somebody to a big man, and the guy pretty much just reached up and grabbed it. I mean, obviously he made that great pass to Terrace for the dunk, but I don't understand what goes through his head when he makes some of these passes. That's what I think.
Could you imagine how good Hassan Diarra would be off the bench? I mean, he'd be the Big East Sixth Man of the Year. That's his role, dude. He's an awesome player. I think he's a great point guard. I think that, in the right system, maybe he like could play 20 plus minutes, 20, 25, 30 minutes a night. But it's really hard when you're 6 foot nothing, 6'2", and you're on RJ Lewis all night. I mean, you can't hang with that. It's impossible. He's not Tristan Newton. He's not Steph Castle, and he doesn't have to be. It just blows my mind that I feel like the expectations for Haas have gotten so high. And like I said, he's a fantastic player. He's top 15 in the country in assists. But I just don't think in a game like this that you should be running any sort of offense through him. I mean, let him make the easy passes, let him get guys in position. But there's no reason he should have had 6 turnovers. That's ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me what the plan was last night. I mean, usually you go into these games and you kind of have a basic game plan or a basic understanding of what the game plan is going to be. You know who you're going to go at. You know who's going to get the ball. You know who's going to kind of change the game. But last night was the first time all season where I felt like we had no idea what was going on. And I feel like that's just a key to kind of drag into the next game is that like you mentioned, Andrew, you need an identity. And I think building this identity starts now with this loss because you saw the best team in the Big East and you saw what a team that's going to make a deep run in March looks like. Now you kind of got to counter and be ready for next time.
And in the open, I said this isn't going to be a very ranty episode, but if I had to pick one place to enter a rant for myself, it's here. And it's nothing against Hassan Diarra at all. I'll make that clear before I start. He's hurt. We know he's hurt. Hurley said he's hurt. He said he's going to be hurt the rest of the year. It's something we're going to have to deal with. Before the injury, he was taking 8.9. I did the math shots per game in Big East play. He's taking 3 shots per game since he got injured. He got hurt, I think, either at the end of the Xavier game or in between the Xavier and DePaul game. Forget which one. But he's not shooting the ball when he's in there. I mean, he's not driving at all. Pretty much all the shots he's taking since the injury are threes, and he did hit his only 3 he took. So I guess credit him there for that one against St. John's. But I mean, if he can't give you 100% and he's already injured to begin with and he's only getting more injured out there, why is he out there? Because for one, he's hurting himself more physically. For two, he's hurting the team. He's not 100%. If you're not 100%, you're hobbled up going against Kadari Richmond. You picked his pocket once or twice. That's going to happen. Hurley said that the staff and himself are gonna have to make some decisions if they maybe sit him for a week or two to get him right. I'm looking at our schedule here. We have at Creighton, then Seton Hall, Villanova, St. John's. I think this is what I would personally do if I was in their shoes. I think he will suit up for that Creighton game because that's a big one you kind of need. But at Seton Hall, I mean, you don't need him. Sit him for that game. We can honestly even sit him at home versus Villanova. We should be able to win that game without Hassan Diarra, especially if he's banged up. So how about we play him in the Creighton game on the 11th and don't play him again until the 23rd? He doesn't practice when he's injured, Hurley said. So it's not like he's missing anything by not playing in these games. He didn't practice between all week between the Marquette game and St. John's game. So I get frustrated at the coaching staff because it's not you're putting a guy out there who's injured. He literally admitted, I don't have confidence in anyone else at point guard, so best we got is 34 minutes of hobbled Haas was the terminology he used. But why don't you have anything better at point guard? I mean, Aiden Mahaney you brought in, he's not a point guard, so I feel like they kind of banked on that, and that's a whole other separate thing. I'll get to. I'll let you guys talk soon. Don't worry. I want to talk about Mahaney after as well, but I just feel like the roster construction there is a clear glaring hole of another ball handler, and if Diarra isn't healthy, which it sounds like he won't be, where do we go? I mean, McNeely's back, but Arena's going to have McNeely be the lead and pretty much only ball handle. I feel like that sucks for McNeely. That's not why he came to UConn. He came to UConn to help compete for a championship and be not a role player, but play his role, not be the safety valve, the last resort guy to bail us out, kind of like he was in that St. John's game. But I guess I'll wrap this up. If Diarra's hurt, don't play him, especially in meaningless games. Creighton game is not meaningless. Seton Hall, we always lose there, but Seton Hall they're like 6-18. You can afford to not play Hassan DR. So I'm curious to see what the staff does with that. That's all for my rant for this episode. Hopefully you guys are still listening, but yeah, I'll let you guys jump in.
Ahmad Noel could have played 30 minutes last night, and I think it would have been the same result. I mean, I'm getting pretty bold this episode, but I genuinely think that I think that not trusting your freshman is, typical, but I just don't believe in it. I don't believe that not even giving a guy 5 or 10 minutes in a game where you desperately need guard scoring and protecting the ball, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You have two four-star freshmen who 2 years ago, 3 years ago would have played 15, 10 minutes a night. I just think it's this reputation that you develop when you win and have these stacked rosters that you don't need those freshmen. You don't need these guys. Why would you need them? Your team is so good. Well, this year your team is not as good. It's time to kind of understand that you don't have 7 NBA players on your team this year, and you need to start working towards the future. And I just think that square one is just giving Ahmad Noel a chance. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You're like I said before, you're just sitting Ross now. You have McNeely in there for 30 minutes shooting 15 shots. You need someone out there who can score. Haas obviously can't do it, and the defense knows that he's not going to be aggressive. I don't understand what he's bringing to the offense when he's getting 3 assists and turning it over 6 times. It doesn't make much sense. If you put Ahmad Noel in there for 5 or 10 minutes, I think that's a run that you can make when you have a scoring guard out there who keeps the defense honest. I feel like I've just been saying this just all year. It's just sucks. You want the coach to do the right thing, but you got to trust him. But sometimes you have your doubts, and I feel like these doubts are starting to creep in.
I feel like people always say, oh, this guy's playing hurt. He's so tough. Look at him. He's a leader. No, he's not tough. He's hurting the team. I mean, like you said, 6 turnovers and 3 shots. Like that's tough. Like I don't really care that he's playing hurt. Like I'm sorry. Like you're hurting the team more by playing hurt than you are. What, you want to make yourself look good? I don't understand it. I agree with Connor that you should play in the Creighton game and then not play for a couple of games. I don't understand the whole, oh, it's okay that you stunk in this game. You're playing hurt. If you're actually hurt, then don't play. That's really all I have to say.
It's been that over and over with the UConn fans. Oh, Caravan's tired. Oh, Haas is hurt. I don't get how this is okay. I don't understand how you could just keep falling back on these excuses. And I just wanted to pose a question. What would that lineup be if Haas was not in it? Who would start? Would it be Mahaney at the one and then Ball at the two? I mean, you would have no choice but to play Noel solid minutes. And then I think we'd see Ross, but I just don't think this was well thought out coming into the season, just how badly you needed a guard.
And my last little point here about this game, I'll talk about Aiden Mahaney, which if Haas were to go out, I feel like Mahaney would be the guy to enter the starting lineup, but I wouldn't want to see that. I'd rather him, I guess he'd have to play more point guard with no Diarra, but I feel like I'd like to see McNeeley really take charge as that lead ball handler and play Stewart in the starting lineup. Go big, why not? But Aiden Mahaney in this one, the fans, let me rephrase, let me restart this point. Mahaney played 6 minutes in this game. He only took one shot. He missed a three from nearly half court because McNeely gave him the ball with one to shoot, and he just had to throw it near the rim, and he airballed it. That was the only shot he took in this game. He only played 6 minutes. Like I said, he's not getting an opportunity to showcase his skills. He didn't. Did he have any turnovers? If he did, I don't remember them, so they weren't too memorable. There's a good chance he did because we had 22 of them. But I feel like the staff is still pushing one turnover. The staff is still pushing this Aiden Mahaney point guard agenda because in the 6 minutes he was in there, those were the 6 minutes Diarra was not. So even I feel like how can they still not see that he's better fit in an off the ball role? We saw him in an off the ball role playing with Hassan Diarra in that Xavier game where he had his best game as a Husky. Why are we not seeing any Mahaney at the shooting guard? Obviously, Solo Ball has been playing awesome, playing excellent, deserves his minutes, but Mahaney has to. You got to let him be what he is. You can't make him something he's not. And the staff tried to make him something he's not, like in the preseason before the Maui tournament, and he struggled. And the fans got on him, and that's really I feel like if you were to ask an average UConn fan their opinion on Aiden Mahaney, they'd be in the negative, all because of how he started, and he hasn't really had the opportunity to improve on that because he started so poorly, and since you don't play good at the beginning, you slowly fall out of the rotation, which he has. So I really want to see him play more of his natural position of like an off the ball guard. I Joey Calcaterra-esque, but I feel like he has more talent than Joey did. But I feel like that's all I got on Mahaney. Just I'll close with this: that the roster construction is a mess with this team. You needed another veteran ball handler, which I mean, Noel, I agree he's going to play a bunch when he gets back, especially if DR is hurt. But you need a guy that you can rely on. You're not going to find another Tristan Newton magically in a year. Maybe you will. You're not going to find another Cam Spencer magically, but a guy that you can trust with the ball in your hands. Because right now, the only guy I trust to bring the ball up and not turn it over is Liam McNeeley. Because Diarra, he's hurt, so I don't really trust that. There's no one else I really have confidence in. Solo Ball is not a great ball handler. Mahaney, we know he's not a great ball handler. Noel, I guess TBD. We haven't seen enough of him. Caravan, no. Stewart, no. Ross, we thought maybe Ross, but no. It's just the roster construction. They nailed it at center because Terrace Reed has been an awesome addition. Mahaney's been a good addition. Don't get me wrong, but you needed one more guy, and it's not like you can't. You have an open scholarship. They could have recruited another ball handler to even just play, I don't know, 10 minutes a game to spell Diarra, but they insisted on turning him Aiden Mahaney into a point guard, and that did not work. They probably expected a little more out of Ahmad Noel. It's just I don't know. I feel like it's unfortunate because and we still can go very far in March. It's just I don't know. It's just I wish they did things differently looking back at it.
And here's a little bit of an issue is that next year we have four guys coming in, two of which are guards, one of which is a shooting guard, and one of which is a combo guard. So this problem, it's not going to go away overnight, and you're losing Haas. So it's only going to become more difficult, and you need to go and get somebody this offseason that is a point guard. And I feel like it's going to be a big deal if Hurley can't get his point guard. I don't know. I mean, you win back-to-back national championships. You call yourself the best coach in college basketball. I mean, you gotta prove it, you know? I'm a big believer in constantly getting better and constantly improving. And I feel like I've preached that about Hurley a lot. You know, what he's done is awesome, but what else is he gonna do? You know? So I want to see him this offseason kind of go at the transfer portal and, make this team a championship contender again.
I agree. Mahaney has been the worst transfer, I feel like, but he's still been a very good player. Worst is a bad word to use there, but the point is Hurley and the staff have nailed the transfer portal, so why not continue to go in there? But I guess my last point about the St. John's game is how do we let them get we've limited them from three, but they don't hit threes. We allowed them to get to their spots pretty much all game in the mid range. RJ Lewis, that last shot, how is he that open? I don't know. It's just the defensive game plan I feel like wasn't executed great, but I don't really want to get into that. I feel like I'm burnt out from all that point guard ranting. We will real quickly. We're not going to do a deep dive into this Creighton game. We all know Creighton. We know Omaha. We're probably not going to win. We never win there. We will just do players to watch for that one. And maybe you guys get some thoughts about the game if you want as well. But you guys get any players to watch? I feel like there's a lot of options here for this game against Creighton.
I have just one point to make about this game. I feel like this should just be short and sweet. Win, first of all, prove everybody wrong. Obviously Omaha. Honestly, we're probably not going to be ranked. Just make peace with that. They're probably not going to rank us because why would they? But we're going to go into Omaha more likely than not unranked, one of the hardest places to play, and it's going to be a tough game. Obviously we've seen them before. Neal can shoot the lights out, so can Ashworth. Kalkbrenner's a tough beast in the paint, but I gotta see this game from McNeeley, and I gotta see him shoot the lights out, and match Ashworth. That's all I want to see. Just I want effort, even if we lose by whatever number. I want effort. I want intensity. I don't want to watch us. This is the damn Big East. I felt like I was watching an NBA team, a mediocre NBA team play against St. John's. It just was soft and nobody wanted to touch anybody, and it was terrible. And I want to watch a real hardcore Big East game in this game. So be physical and just win the damn game. That's all.
I think we're going to see two guys here. One of them was going to be McNeely, but I think the other one is solo ball. And I think in a game like this, where you're coming off that loss and you kind of need a spark, I think these guys could combine for 50 points. I don't think that would be a stretch. I think in a game like this where you need the scoring, especially with, Haas getting sort of exposed offensively, I think they kind of go away from that. And I think they try and find points elsewhere. And I think that these two are going to just have a great game. I mean, Caravan, he can chip in if he wants, but I think that the sophomore and the freshman need to kind of pick up the slack here if we want to, make a deeper run into March.
I'm just pulling up our box score from that game at Creighton last year. That was one of our three losses. We lost by 19, which off the top of my head was our biggest loss. I don't think we had any bigger than that. Tristan Newton had 27 points, 12 rebounds. There were only two other players in double figures, 12 for Klingon and 10 for Castle. I feel like I'm getting similar vibes to that, which is also probably similar vibes to the Marquette game where I think we're gonna have one guy pop off. I think that guy is solo ball. I'm not gonna choose him as my player to watch though. I'm gonna say Samson Johnston because he only played 8 minutes. Obviously, he was in foul trouble, and Terrace was just playing better. Which there's going to be nights where Terrace plays 8 minutes. There has been. I don't think he's been that low, but point stands. There's going to be games where you're going to play the hot-handed center, and that was Terrace Reed Jr. against St. John's. But Sampson, I feel like this is a game where he can really. We're going to need all we can ask for from him and Terrace against Ryan Kalkbrenner, trying to limit him. Ashworth's a different story. We're going to hopefully. I don't know what we do there if DR is banged up, but. Yeah, Sampson's my player to watch because he's the guy I feel like easily can and will bounce back in this game. I'm thinking double digits potentially. I feel like he gets there more often than we realize. He's just a sneaky. It was not sneaky efficient, but he's a sneaky scorer. He's in double figures. I don't have it up here, but it's more often than not. I feel like so. Sampson's definitely my player to watch for Creighton.
This video's turned into a little bit of a rant, and we have gone a little while. So if you're still watching at this point, comment Slamson.
I like it, Slamson. But we haven't gone in a while. We are pretty much done unless you guys got any last remarks. So yeah, comment Slamson on the YouTube. Next time you hear from us, the plan as of now, as of the recording of this on Saturday night, is We're gonna do another live stream after this Creighton game, which means the UConn Huskies lost to Creighton because we never do live streams after wins. I feel like so. Unfortunately, we always jinx the team. So this is a game where I feel like us jinxing it won't even matter, just going out to Omaha. But the plan is to do a live stream. You guys loved it last time. What was that? That was Villanova the last time we did it. That was a heartbreaking one to do live right after. But yeah, we'll plan is to go live for this Creighton game. So hopefully you guys tune in. We'll post links once that gets closer. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to that rant. If you listen this far, like Matt said, comment Slamson. These rants aren't often, so they're kind of fun to do once in a while, once every 2 years. But yeah, that's all we got. Thank you guys for watching and stay tuned.